Hello guys, Jared Lajani here again with Main Street Mogul. So super excited to be here with my friend today, Mr. Aaron Daigle. Aaron Daigle is so many things, so we're going to get into it. Aaron is a preacher. He is a counselor. He is a real estate investor. And he has his own YouTube channel at Aaron J. Daigle, so go check that out when you get a chance. He has a lot of amazing content on there. So we're going to get into a little bit. Aaron, you want to just tell them a little bit about yourself, Aaron? Introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, man, thank you so much for having me on. I'm super pumped to be here today and to be talking about entrepreneurship together. I'm going to say right out the gate, you, Jared, asking me about business, I feel like it's Conor McGregor asking me how to fight.
Oh, no, man.
I'm out of my league, man. But, so, yeah, I'm just grew up pretty rough, man, and came out of a very abusive home. And my mom, at 7, they divorced, and she kind of went from house to house, and not house to house, but relationship to relationship over time.
Sure.
And, when I was about 12 years old, after all that, I just felt like God dealt with me and told me that He wanted to do something great through me and in my life. And not too long after that, I was very upset with God over some things that He allowed to happen. And so I went out into the streets and got into drugs and alcohol and whatnot. And that's sort of kind of where I began my entrepreneurial journey. We'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But when I was 17 years old, I decided I'm going to change. I want something better. And that was good, 18, 19 years ago, and I've never looked back, man.
Wow, man, what an amazing story. And I've heard you tell it from the pulpit. And I think if y'all want the full testimony, it's out there. Just they could probably Google and get your full testimony, I believe.
Yeah, I have a book, From a Great Mess to Greatness.
Is it a book?
Yeah, it's out there on Amazon.
So on Amazon, say it again for us.
From a Great Mess to Greatness.
Okay, so I highly recommend that, guys. Get his full testimony. It's worth reading. I've heard it. It'll bless you, and it's amazing. So, Aaron, you said that you had at 17, you just had something that happened that you said, I had enough of this. And anytime I've ever heard anybody, that's going through those struggles and drug abuse and that kind of life, we'll call it like the street life, because it's kind of what you out there, right? Like you were doing your thing. What happened that just was like, this is enough. I don't want this kind of life anymore, and I'm going to be something different. Because a lot of people, they'll say that they want that, but they never actually can achieve it. And you've pulled it off in a way like that's unbelievable. What was that thing?
Man, I've seen people struggle to get off drugs or quit porn or quit, alcohol, and it's always fighting the issue. And for me, that was never enough because I tried over and over. They say it's easy to quit. I did it 1,000 times.
Yeah, right.
And so, but one day that drive to do something. Remember when I was 12, I felt like God told me that He wanted to do something great in my life. And it was that pressure buildup of like, this isn't meaningful to me. What's meaningful is that purpose. I want to pursue something greater than this. So I developed this concept called purpose-driven sobriety. And when I've gone to different rehabs throughout the country and ministered, I would actually teach that concept, that I had to get a hold of something bigger than me and bigger than my issue. And for me, it was ministry. I wanted to have an impact in the world. And so it was the buildup of something greater that pulled me out of the mess I was in.
Wow, man. That's just incredible, Aaron. Is that background that you came from, is that what inspired you to be a preacher? Or what kind of drew you to actually, because I know a lot of people that find Christ, right, and they find Jesus and they're delivered, but a lot of them don't become preachers. But I mean, I guess what I'm asking, you kind of seem to have an extreme personality in everything you do. Right, I think it's one of your blessings, but probably also has caused you a lot of grief in your life at the same time.
My mom too, when I was growing up.
Yeah. So were you like, I'm in this thing. I'm not just I'm gonna preach and I'm gonna just deliver the gospel and just kind of bring it as far as I can go with it. Was that kind of your thinking once you got involved in it? We're just so grateful. You're like, I have to tell people about this.
It was really my pastor. It was when I was 17 years old. I met my pastor. There was a Spanish-speaking church in the area, and I had been learning Spanish for a couple of years. I did not go back to church for God. I went because at a Spanish church, I figured there was Spanish music and Spanish girls. That's why.
And you are married to a Spanish.
I did.
So you knew what you wanted
early
on.
But yeah, so I went for that, and over time, God just was dealing with me, bro. And my pastor had such an impact in my life. And also my Spanish teacher at that same time, it was when I was in 10th grade, had such an impact in my life that I decided I want to become a preacher and I want to become a teacher. Wow. And I went full force for both of them.
Wow. And that's a hard thing. I've had the chance to do some ministry in my life, and I've been so grateful for it. But I always say that I feel like ministry is harder than business. Business is hard, but I've always felt like ministry is actually more difficult than business. You've been in both worlds for a while now. Would you agree with that, or you think I'm off on that?
Man, I find everybody thinks their field is harder than everyone else's. And I've heard a lot of talk about that. That is a common thing that's said in ministry, that ministry is harder than anything else. Personally, ministry has been harder than any job I've ever had. Entrepreneurship has been harder than traditional ministry. So what I mean is, my entrepreneurial endeavors are ministry related. The one-on-one coaching, the marriage coaching. We're still bringing a God element to people's lives. Doing YouTube. The YouTube channel is Bible based. So is there a spiritual warfare element? Is there a ministry component? Yes. But to branch off on my own and build this stuff has been way more challenging than pastoring a church or traveling and speaking in other churches. So they're both challenging, man, and I think probably being a stay-at-home mom has a bunch of challenges that I'm aware of. Everything in life worth doing is hard, but entrepreneurship is probably at the top of the line for me.
I would have to agree, man. I know it's difficult. I feel like, in church, what makes it difficult is you work so hard and you push for so much, and the reward is greater, but it's different. You reward it with relationships. You reward it on a spiritual plane, and you're working with people. When you're in church, really, most of the people you help a lot of time are the people that a church is a hospital, the hurting and the needy, and it can get kind of. I mean, this is what you do every day. Like, you're helping people. So I think your reward is more delayed in ministry, so that just makes it more difficult. And entrepreneurship, although your rewards are delayed, at least they are finite. They're in financial. You can get financial reward. A lot of time in ministry, not that you can have financial reward, it just can take so long, right?
Yes.
It's just two different worlds. And there's always the adage of in ministry: should you even have financial? There's a big thing in the church, right? Like, if you're a ministry and you have any financial gain, that you're not even spiritual, right? There's that whole thing, right? Which I'm not going to get into all that, but I'll just say this on that topic. I believe if you work for the kingdom of God really hard and you make an impact, that you do deserve to be paid well. That's just my personal take on it.
That's interesting, man. I honestly never even thought of it from that angle. Probably because intuitively, that is my reward, and I love that. I love seeing people's lives changed. But now that you said it that way, I might take that back. It's hard to grind in ministry without that pay, man.
So now today, man, you have multiple things that you do, and we'll get into how you manage all that. But were you always entrepreneurial? Was it is there an entrepreneurial spirit in you from day one? Did you have any entrepreneurial things when you were young that you got into, or any ventures when you were really young that failed? Or tell me some of the things, like your first entrepreneur bug or thing you tried to do. Was there something when you were really young?
Oh man, it makes me think of Warren Buffett. He said he bought his first stock when he was 11. He got a late start in life.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. And for most entrepreneurs, I think that would be the case. If it's not, that doesn't mean we're not called to entrepreneurship, but most of us, I think, would relate. So yes, I was in junior high, and I got a cassette tape. Back before MP3s, before CDs.
You're aging us, Aaron. You're aging us.
Oh, I'm not even explaining this. He's not at that same age.
And a cassette tape is a square piece of plastic, and you used to put it in something called a boom box, and you had to press a button, and you would play it, and sound would come out. That's what a cassette tape is.
So here's what I would do, man, is I would listen to rap on the radio, and at the very end of a rap song, they had that little clip of the music that played without the lyrics, just a little tiny piece. Yeah. So I recorded it from the radio onto the cassette, and then used the cassette to put it in the other cassette, play it, and then put the other one and record that over and over and over till I get 3 minutes of a beat. And then I rapped with a microphone that was plugged into the boombox onto the cassette to make a rap song. And then I recorded that over and over on the cassettes, took a bag full of cassettes, took them to junior high, and was selling the cassettes on campus.
No way.
That was the start, man. When CDs came out, bro, we hit the innovative entrepreneurial boom, man. We were doing that in high school, and then that was also during the time I was on drugs. And what I was doing in the backdrop when I was at home was my mom had back surgery, and she had Percocets, some pain pills, and I was siphoning the pills out of her bottle and then selling them out on the streets. So I was selling opioids and selling rap CDs and tapes. That's how I got started as an entrepreneur. That's what led me to becoming a preacher.
Good profit margin, huh?
Unreal. I mean,
Unreal. Except, would anybody ever talk to you from that life, though? That, of course, I'm joking about the proper, but I'm not the proper margin of it. But that money doesn't last, right? It seems like that money comes fast and easy, and it goes fast and easy. It's like it is really spiritual, because when you really do work and earn something with your effort and your blood and your sweat and your tears, you have a different respect for it versus earning money that way. Or anytime I think you do anything that you do it in an unethical way, I believe money is spiritual, and I believe anytime you earn money in an unethical way, like, it can't be blessed, because earning money itself doesn't really lead to freedom or wealth. It's the investments and the things that money can do that can ultimately lead to freedom and wealth. And so anybody I've ever known that I've ever talked to, and maybe somebody out there, but that has ever had any success in that world, they never are ultimately successful. Like, there's no success in that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I think money's it's a representation of value. And so if you're getting money without creating value in return, it's just printed paper. And so you're not the person who has actually earned that, and it doesn't stick. Whereas when you truly create value, money is a scorecard showing, like, here's the value this person has created. And since you've actually created the value, the money's there to stick around and use to create more value. So I'm with you on that, man.
That is good, man. He's dropping bombs right here, guys. If you are thinking about entrepreneurship, he just gave you some amazing advice. Find something that people need and that is valuable, and create a lot of value for people that need it, and you'll have that's how you find success, man.
That's it, bro.
That is so good,
Dude,
Aaron.
if I can, I wanted to ask you this one too.
Yeah.
I was very curious when I saw the line of questions.
Yeah.
Did you start out young too? Did you have selling rap CDs or something? Like, what was your first entrepreneurial dig? Because I know it wasn't spraying wasps, man. So
yeah, no, man, that's an excellent question. I haven't really talked about that a lot, but so my background's similar to yours. I come from a background of drug dealing and drug abuse and drug addiction, just like you. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I guess my first entrepreneurial effort would have been very much like yours. And then I got married at 18 and kind of got away from that life. And same thing, got into church, found God. And really, I didn't do anything entrepreneurial again until I was 28. And it was the Legion's Pest Control that I founded. So I did a lot of things when I was young like that too, like selling candy and selling stuff like that, and coming out of that background. But, I don't want, this interview is about you, and I want to keep it on you because people deserve to hear your knowledge. But I do get the opportunity to talk to a lot of business people around the country and from Main Street Mogul. And I'll tell you what I have found, man. There's a fine line between a criminal and an entrepreneur. There is something that allows you to be a criminal in the amount of risk that you have to take, and I'll even say the amount of passion that, if you channel it in the right way, really transcends well into doing good in entrepreneurship. And I say there's probably the best business people and the smartest entrepreneurs are probably in prison that just never got freedom and never broke away. And I've done prison ministry. There's some smart people in prison.
Oh, yeah.
Like, smarter than me, So anyway, yeah, thank you for asking that, Aaron. I don't think that you should get your start that way. This
is not a recommendation.
It's not a recommendation of what you should do, man. So let's talk a little bit, man. You do an amazing counseling business with your wife, Cece, right?
Yes.
So is that her business, your business, y'all business? But kind of how'd y'all get into doing that together?
So that was complete accident for me. My wife is a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Okay.
She worked for another company as a contractor. So she would work, the clients would come and see her. They provided a facility, marketing, back-end type stuff, and then they would split the profit. And so my wife wanted more of the money from each client, and then they weren't able to come to an agreement, so she decided to venture out on her own. But when she did that, they threatened to sue her on a non-compete, and told her like she had to practice like light years away. So we took the non-compete that she had signed and just fine-combed through it and read through it, and they said, you can't counsel, you can't do therapy, you can't. And one thing we noticed was they did not have the word coach. So she said, okay, well, I'll do coaching, and that's kind of how she got started.
Well, necessity is the mother of invention.
That's it, brother. Well, I'm grinding away on YouTube and books and stuff, and I love people. And so I'm like, I'm working 4 or 5 hours, and I'm like, man, I got to do something. I got to get out of the house. And, so then I realized, I was like, well, if my wife can coach, then I can coach. So it just happened. I just started showing up, and she started saying, hey, well, if you want to work with my husband, and like it just worked. But one thing we fell into a groove with was seeing couples together. And we felt like, because like people would come in and the husband might feel like, well, the woman's going to gang up on me with my wife, or vice versa. And so we just ended up doing it. It wasn't a plan. It wasn't a strategy. But you did ask if we own the business together. I tell her all the time, when I set it up, I did 51-49. But that's not true. She don't know that it's 50-50, but it's 50-50.
She might watch this. You know that, right?
Probably so. I'm going to edit this little part. So it's 50-50.
All right, man. So that was kind of a God thing, again, kind of leading your steps, because I don't know, I'm sure it exists, but that's unique, at least in our area here, locally, to have a husband and wife like do counseling that can talk to both people at the same time. I think that's a real niche. I know y'all had some success with it, and that's really awesome, but I think it's a God thing, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just in ordering the steps. And you mentioned success. I'll say this, it's been one of the greatest things as far as feedback, as far as financial return. Like, it is really working. And it's probably the one thing that we didn't set out to do. So, word of the wise is don't do what you want to do, just do what God's telling you to do, I guess. I don't know, but it has been a blessing. Yeah.
And y'all didn't have like a plan or anything, like she couldn't work, y'all needed to make a living. You kind of just did what you had to do, right?
Absolutely.
Like a lot of times I think people, when they're looking to start a business, they put so much focus on how to do it, or, they let fear stop them from moving forward. I think a lot of times you just have to do it. And I know that's not always the wisest thing, but nothing will force you to figure something out like necessity.
Oh, God, yeah.
So sometimes just the starting, you're in it, we have to make a living, you'll just figure that out. It's amazing how creative you can be when you have to be creative.
That's so true, man. I saw a lady on Facebook asking about swimming lessons in the area, and I wanted to post on it, just throw them in the bayou, they'll figure it out. I don't want nobody to get offended.
But they might. That's actually kind of, sink or swim, literally.
Exactly, so.
So, I work with my spouse. It's been one of the most rewarding things that I've gotten to do, and I'm so happy to be able to do it. But it does come with its unique challenges. Have you found that, or can you maybe tell me some of the really positive things that's come from working with your spouse in a professional setting, and maybe some of the things that have been more difficult, more challenging working with your spouse on a daily basis?
Absolutely. So for challenges, if you go to work for 40 hours a week, your wife or your husband goes to work for 40 hours a week, and then y'all come home, that whole 40 hours you've not spent together. You're aware of that. And so you may talk more or be intentional about spending time together. Whereas in our case, I have found that I've fallen in the trap where my wife says, we haven't spent time together. I'm like, we worked 50 hours.
Been together all day. That don't count.
That don't count. Yeah, I didn't realize that didn't count. See, so it's really that falling into the trap of feeling like I've spent time on my marriage when I've done business, when in reality I haven't. And so I need to be aware, like, okay, this is business, and I also need to be a husband outside of our business. So that has been a pain point of growth, to make sure that I'm doing that as well. As far as strengths, I'll say, next to getting married, who you do business with, I mean on a partner basis, not on ownership, like strategic, like high level, that is the most important relationship.
100%, I agree with that, Aaron.
So we trust each other. Like literally it is 50-50. I said that as a joke. My wife knows it's 50-50. And like, she's not going to siphon money out of the business behind my back and go put it in our account, because it's our mutual account anyway. Like, so there's this deep level of trust that we're just both going towards the same goals. And that has been such a blessing to not have to have that risk of that partner risk in business, which can blow up if you put the wrong person in the wrong place.
Yeah, absolutely. So they say the only kind of ship don't float is partnership.
No, but I can see why they say it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have successful partnerships, but it's definitely, I think, almost a disadvantage more than an advantage. I know partners can bring some resources and some strategic talents, and I know a lot of people have had a lot of success by having a partnership. So I know it can be done, but I've always, if you don't have to, don't. And don't have a partner with someone just because they're your friend or or because you like them. I mean that's cool, but really, I think if you're going to have a partnership with someone, they need to bring money. They need to bring some kind of strategic value, some kind of innovation, some unique skill, right? And then even then, that needs to have with a lawyer, written up clear expectations of what's expected. There needs to be a clear expectation of an exit if anybody wants to exit. And I think if you do that and all those things exist, you can have successful partnerships, but it's very difficult. And I think if you can have success in entrepreneurship and not have to be exposed to partnerships,
Yes.
You're better off. But also know at a certain level of scale of certain businesses, it almost becomes necessary depending on how big your vision is, right? So it's different. It's different for everybody. So can you tell me a little bit about this, man? So you're an entrepreneur and you're a counselor. You get to deal with couples all the time. Entrepreneurship is stressful, right? I know myself since I've been in entrepreneurship, it's took a mental toll on me that I can't even explain over the years. Like just with mental exhaustion. You burn more calories thinking than you do running.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But now, and not just thinking, but when I say thinking, like really thinking, like doing hard mind work burns a lot of calories, right?
Wow.
But most people never really do hard mind work, like really solve real problems and really mentally use their brain. But if you're really like in deep thought figuring out a problem, you're burning calories like more than like physical thing. So we can literally be physically exhausted from mental work in entrepreneurship. And then everybody I've talked to, anxiety is always a big one, right? Because it's so hard when you're trying to break through. So just tell me a little bit, man, because you have a counseling background, how important is mental health in entrepreneurship? And have you had to really be guarded and disciplined on your own mental health kind of along your journey of all the things that you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, man. You are the horse that this business is riding. So if the horse gets shot down in battle, the business collapses, which means your marriage may, hopefully not collapse, but possibly.
Sure.
Your health. So taking care of me is taking care of the business.
That is so good, Aaron.
Personally, I have, from day one, came out the gate with the concept. I taught the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the teen version in high school, to my students. And the 7th principle in Covey's book is sharpening the saw. Why swing with a dull axe for 6 hours when you can sharpen it for 2 and swing it for 1?
Mm-hmm.
Boom, that kind of deal. So, and then I've been thankfully blessed that my hobbies align with total self-care. I heard a man tell me one time, he said, I pray from my spirit, I read from my mind, and I work out from my body. Praying, reading, and working out are total hobbies. I love it. Like I could work out all day, read all day, or pray all day, and that would be an ideal day for me. So I have been blessed to naturally gravitate towards self-care, to a detriment, because I'm the guy who will do the 3-hour morning routine and then be like, okay, I'm really supposed to be building this business. So personally, I haven't struggled in that area, whereas I put the business on the back burner for far too long. So I've had to kind of go in the opposite direction. But most entrepreneurs I know are so passionate about the business that they overlook mental health for so long that they either burn out and collapse or accept reality that I am not Superman. And then they'll get help. Now, a coach, a counselor, a mental health professional can help you in those areas, in that spiritual, financial, marital, emotional, physical even. And if that's where you're at in life, there's no better investment than to invest in something that can help you get ahead in those areas of your life. Because again, ultimately, the success of the business and the success of all the areas of your life that are important determine on the success of you. And so I highly prioritize it. Again, personally, it's been a blessing of mine. But for most entrepreneurs, it's a struggle.
Yeah, I agree. Most people are so passionate about the thing they get into. And I think you have to be, you have success. You have to really, if you can't believe in what you do, nobody else will, first of all. You better be passionate about it. But I do think it's mindful when you get into it to have an understanding, guard your mental health, your prayer life. If you're going to, I always say, if you go into entrepreneurship and you're not praying, good luck. I don't know what you're doing. You know,
God help you.
God help you. Yeah, right. So, you know, I know a lot of people when they work so much and so hard, they never take a break, right? And they get the success of the business with it. So I just heard you say, you know, you could pray, read, work out, and that's just, you could do that. Do you ever intentionally just take a day? Like, have you ever gotten just stressed and like, you know, things are piling up and you know what? Today I'm just going to wake up, I'm going to do a morning routine, I'm going to pray, read, I'm going to work out today and just take this day, like, and just do it, just to kind of have like a mental and physical restoration?
Yes. So, generally speaking, I do that on a consistent basis. So, I will have an extended time of prayer or Bible reading and book reading and working out. Again, that has probably slowed the growth of my business. I could have gotten to where I'm at faster, but I do that on a consistent basis to where I generally don't need that. I need a week off.
Got it.
You know, that kind of deal.
So you're disciplined on a daily, so you don't have to do that.
Generally speaking, yes. The other side is I feel guilty for taking that day, even if I am tired and probably do need it. So I got this from Jocko, but he said, don't give in to weakness. Don't take off today. Take off tomorrow. So push through, and if you're still tired tomorrow, then okay, go ahead and rest. But chances are you'll be okay. It's just weakness today. So I have pushed myself in that area because, again, understand my context is that I take care of myself and I will neglect the business to take care of myself, which has been a detriment to me as an entrepreneur. Most entrepreneurs are the opposite. They will allow themselves to run into the ground for the sake of the business.
That's right.
So in that case, I would highly recommend, like 100%, take the day.
Yeah.
Take the day because.
So you may be getting where you're going, I'm not even going to say quote unquote slower than you could possibly get there, but you may be getting to where you're going in a safer, better way than most people do.
Yes. However, I have my wife 100% backing and supporting and just being there for me and encouraging me and allowing the grace for me to build slowly instead of like demanding like, okay, I want my Rolls Royce now that you're an entrepreneur.
Got it.
You know, she's willing to like grind with me and sacrifice and like see it come over. So yes, it is a slower process. We are healthier, but I could not do this without my wife backing me.
So awesome.
And so if you're watching this and you're an entrepreneur and your spouse is backing you, you are really, really blessed. And you have so much in your corner that a lot of entrepreneurs may not have. But yes, and to answer the kind of the concept, yes, but it's because my wife has allowed this, and I prefer it this way. Like, I'd rather in 20 years have a great marriage, a great health, and a great business than in 7 years have a great business and everything else be shoddy.
Ooh, Aaron Daigle dropping some knowledge on y'all. Man, that is good stuff, Aaron. I always say, show me a good man, or behind every good man is a great woman, right? If you're doing big things and you're a good man, that support of your spouse is just so important. So, man, that's so amazing. That's good stuff, Aaron. Thank you for sharing that, man. So you're in the real estate business too now, right? So you do definitely have what I call the entrepreneur's disease, because you just don't have one business.
No.
Like, we kind of went over them, but you have a counseling business, you have a real estate business, and you also have a social media, basically your YouTube business, and you preach. You're an evangelical. So almost kind of like 4 separate ventures that you're in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the real estate and how you got into there and kind of what's going on there with you. And kind of how do you manage doing so many different things? And would you recommend doing that to other people, or would you think it'd be a better just to be focused on one thing and kind of just talk? I know it's a lot, but kind of just expound on that a little bit.
Yeah. So, okay, how did we get into real estate? Was sheer necessity,
Okay.
absolute need. We were living in an apartment, and we bought our first home on sheriff sale and renovated the entire thing. We're living in the house, and we have just credit cards. We have our car notes. We were just a year or so into marriage, and like we were maxed out leverage to the T to renovate the house. And then I had this bright idea of quitting my career and becoming an entrepreneur in that season.
Really?
So one thing we had done in the house, the garage was actually enclosed, and we raised the floor and put AC in it, and so it was part of the square footage of the house. We had 4 bedrooms now, the master, 2 bedrooms, and then the garage. So since I had the bright idea of being an entrepreneur way before I should have, when I was mounted up in debt, we had to rent out rooms on Airbnb to eat.
To eat. Literally, right?
Yeah, literally. Right? And so we did it. And I mean, this is where I talked about my wife, most women would not grind like this, but we would set up an air mattress in the garage, which it wasn't a garage, it was part of the house. It was, right? But, in that room, rent out our master bedroom, rent out the other 2 rooms, and make ends meet so that I could grind. And so now the flip side, the long-term entrepreneur and the both of us said, but that was kind of nice getting that income. So I want to do this more. And so that was kind of how we did it. That was how we started. And then we ended up selling it for the equity, paying off all that crazy debt.
Look at that, man. That's amazing.
And then we just we roughed it. We lived in, roughed it. We went to smaller apartments until we could save up, got another house and started renovating that one, renting out rooms there. But we do real estate it's not our main goal. It's not our main focus. It's kind of on the backdrop to the coaching, counseling, and stuff like that, and YouTube. But that's how we got started. But to answer your back end question, which is, should other entrepreneurs do that? No.
No?
No. Focus, 100%. I have too many interests to just stay that focused, and I get stir crazy. So personally, I don't have the personality for it, but I wish I did, because I feel like a focused entrepreneur is going to be way more successful, way quicker. If you chase 2 rabbits, they'll both get away.
Sure.
So it's not necessarily the most strategic aim. It's just what I have to do for my personality and the fact that I love so many different things. But no, for the general person starting out, find your niche and dominate it. Don't dabble, dominate.
Are you trying now to be more self-disciplined and just focus on so really you're trying to be focused maybe just on the counseling and the YouTube? Would that be fair?
Yes.
And just have that, and it's hard for you.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're trying because you realize that you probably could be further along if you could just have more energy, intent, and focus on that one thing.
Yes.
Okay. Wow, man. Thank you so much, Aaron, for sharing this. This is powerful stuff, y'all. So basically what I'm hearing for any young entrepreneur out there, or anybody, you don't have to be young, old entrepreneur, anybody that's wanting to be an entrepreneur, is find something that can bring a lot of value to a lot of people, be passionate about it, be obsessive about it, and then focus on that one thing until you've made it.
If you do that, then you just saved yourself 5 years of business.
5 years of business school.
Right there.
Man, that is so good, man. So we talked about your YouTube channel at Aaron Daigle. You're doing amazing stuff there. Once again, go watch it. Aaron has the bravery, a lot of times, quite honestly, to talk about things, especially in the church world, that a lot of people don't have the bravery to talk about. So thank you for that, Aaron. I'm not going to spend too much time on it here, but I do implore you guys to go watch it. It'll bless your lives. He tackles some hard topics. He tackles church hurts. He tackles, what's some other difficult topics you've tackled on there?
Man, we get into marriage. We give practical life advice on just things that could be applied to entrepreneurs, but we definitely go look, how can Christians grow? We go deeper. We're looking for Christians who want to grow further in their walk with God. But as far as tackling tough topics, I try to be kind and always respectful, but I will speak on what needs to be spoken on. So we've talked about things in society, things that have happened throughout our nation, particularly since 2020. If it's pertinent to the context, I will surely mention it with no qualms and share some perspective on it.
Yeah.
So that's a vague way on your YouTube channel. I don't know what you once said, but of saying that we'll get into it if we need to get into it on mine.
Yes. And you know what Aaron was sharing with me, I hope you don't mind me sharing, but we were kind of talking a little bit about it when we were setting up here. And he's had probably the best response and the most interaction when you've been brave enough to tackle the hard topics in the right way.
Yes.
And I think that's so true. I think the things that scare us that a lot of people don't, a lot of success is when you're willing to do what other people won't, right? And like really just be honest and be who you are. And if anything, I can say that you always own who you are, man, and you're not scared to own it and be who you are. And I think a lot of your blessings just comes from really, man, you push through boundaries, right? Like I know you probably have fear, but the little bit I've gotten to know you, you don't let fear win. Like anything that might scare somebody else, like you almost purposely chase it down. Like if I'm scared of it, I'm going to kill it. Is that fair? Do you feel that way?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs that have success have that trait, some more than others, but I mean, you really just go get it, man. Let's talk a little bit about your jiu-jitsu. So is that for when deals don't go right, that you can break that out, or what's the deal with jiu-jitsu?
Man, it's something I always wanted to do since I was a kid. My dad boxed, and he fought in the bars a lot, and just kind of taught me a little bit of that stuff. And then he was murdered when I was 18.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that, man.
Yeah, so it's kind of a nostalgic thing for me, and it's always just been on the back burner of entrepreneurship and ministry and that kind of deal. But anyways, I got into it, and I absolutely love it. It has completely changed my life. Next to God and my wife, I would say it's the most important thing I've ever done as far as creating actual material success in my life, practically, financially, in all areas.
Wow.
Jiu-jitsu, this is actually why I was hesitant earlier when you asked me.
Am I skinny enough to do jiu-jitsu?
Oh, dude, we got anybody and everybody. We got chicks doing jiu-jitsu, bro.
I was hoping you said I was too fat. Continue.
Oh, man. When you mentioned about feeling fear and just going at it, that's true in most cases, but one area where I've always been totally terrified is in handiwork, fixing something on a house. And so getting into jiu-jitsu, man, jiu-jitsu is the art of constantly solving a problem that is constantly changing and constantly trying to solve you.
Oh, wow.
So I've heard it said like it's like human chess, which it's true because there's patterns and strategy, but chess is I move, you move. I move, you move. Jiu-jitsu is I move, now you're going to move 3 times, and all my moves just went out the window because you're now on my back choking me. And so you have to constantly deal with change and facing fear. There's going to be people you don't really want to fight with, but you just press through. You're exhausted. You can't breathe because your cardio is giving out. You just keep going. And that has carried over. I didn't realize it. I started because I wanted to learn how to fight. But I do it now because of, one, the relationships, the quality people, because it weeds out the people who aren't going to have the grit or resilience or determination or see through it or stick-to-itiveness. But it also just has made me a better man, a problem solver, someone willing to, climb up on a ladder and deal with wasp. And I remember I was on the top of a shed, on top of a ladder.
Call me to handle wasp.
That's it, man. I should have just reached out, man.
Wasps are so dangerous that you shouldn't do. You should call the Johnnies for wasps. But anyway.
That's it. I could have been allergic.
No,
no, man. But I love it, man. It's made me a better man.
So let's shout them out. Where do you go to jiu-jitsu at? Who's your family over there?
Next Generation Martial Arts.
Next Generation Martial Arts.
Yes.
And is there a sensei there? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, Scotty Smith Jr. is the head instructor. Okay. And he's really humble. He'd never tell anybody about it. But everyone in every other gym I've ever spoken to said he's the best fighter in this area of the world.
Wow.
So I respect him. He's a great man. And there's great stuff for kids over there. It's a wonderful experience.
That's awesome, man. And so that experience of that, it just helps you be more mentally tough in every other thing that you do.
Correct.
Man, so I'm doing something right now. Every morning I'm cold plunging.
Nice.
Yeah, not really, but I'm doing it.
It's not nice.
It's not. It's terrible. I don't recommend it, but I'm doing it, and there's maybe some health benefits to it. But one of the biggest things that I'm doing it for is I want to make sure that I train my mind mentally that when I say I'm going to do this thing or do this hard thing, that I do it instantly. And so by making myself get in that cold water early in the morning, and I do it without hesitation. So like I'm training, like I say I'm going to do it, and I go in there and I jump right in and I just do it. I cold plunge.
Oh, I love it.
And so that discipline of making my, saying I'm going to do it and mentally making myself do it. If I have other hard decisions to make throughout the day that are difficult, I feel like I'm able to make them with less hesitation just because I'm training my mind to do the hard things when I say do them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, of course, man. I love that about you.
Yeah. And I feel like anytime you do hard stuff, it just helps you. When you do really hard things, it makes other hard stuff easier to do.
Wow.
Right?
I'm definitely posting that on
Yeah. So anyway, man, what's one, is there one big regret or one mistake you've made on your journey that you can look back and say, man, I wish I'd have done this one thing different?
Yeah. I wish I would have started sooner. But I wish I would have got myself in a better place to start sooner. So here's what I mean is I was teaching for 5 years, and deep inside I knew I didn't want the career. I wanted an entrepreneurial endeavor. And so I was like holding off and waiting to leave. And as 5 years down the road, I jumped, and now on the flip side, when I jumped, I had credit card debt, student loans, car notes. I should have cleared all that up. That wasn't brave. That was foolish. It put a strain on me and on my family. So I wish I would have been more focused on getting myself to a decent financial place, not perfect. You watch every cloud, you're never going to plant.
Yeah, that's good advice.
But don't jump out when you're just so far in the red. Like that was foolish.
Yeah, but you did it.
So I did, but I would have done it a lot easier without that. I would have saved myself the pain.
Yeah.
The unnecessary
But
pain.
maybe the pain made you who you are.
You're right. You are right.
So what I would preference, I'm not challenging that, and I don't disagree with that for the record. I think that we should always have wisdom. We should have a plan, and especially if you were married, it's our job to provide security for our families. We don't want to be foolish out here, and I'm not recommending anybody be foolish. But I would say maybe sometimes, and you got to pray about this for yourself, but just taking action is going to bring you more success in the long term. And you kind of said it, don't just, what you said, don't plant a seed and wait for a cloud or something.
Yeah, it's a Bible verse actually. It says, farmers who watch the weather never plant. If they watch every cloud, they never harvest. So in other words, it's never going to be perfect.
Right.
Your finances won't ever be perfect, or your marriage ain't ever going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. But sometimes you just got to jump.
Yeah. So have wisdom, but take action.
Yes.
Yeah. Man, that is so good, man. So tell me, Aaron, what are some of the books that you've read that's impacted you, or what are you reading now, or maybe one or two books that you've read over the years that's just stuck with you, that's impacted you? I know the Bible, everybody, I know you're reading that. So besides the Bible, other books that's just had a huge impact on you, or ones you may recommend right now?
I'll tell you this, man, and we may get to this later on. I do not think you need to be formally educated, but you need to have an education, personal. You need to read, you need to learn, you need to grow yourself. But whether or not you go to college, whether or not you even finish high school, that is so uncorrelated to world success. It's unprecedented. But I love books. I read, I consume, I devour information, and just summaries and whatnot. So when people ask that question, I tend to want to gravitate towards what I'm reading now because it's fresh and on the forefront. But I'm going to not do that, and I'm going to share the two books that really impacted me, and both were in my early 20s. The first one was The Search for Significance by Robert S. McGee.
Search for Significance.
Correct.
Okay.
And what it is it deals with insecurity and why we're prideful. And it shows you the ways insecurity comes up. And there's 4 different traps. One of them is the performance trap, which is, chasing success and all, but it's doing it to fill a void. The other one is acceptance. So always people pleasing because we need people's approval because deep down inside we don't approve of ourselves. And there's a couple other ones. The reason this is so important is because, one, it'll help you to not be a prideful jerk. But two, there's nothing wrong with going after greatness, but you want to do it for the right reasons so you don't self-destruct and destroy everyone else around you.
It's so good, Aaron.
So that book was pivotal. Like I look at
I
myself.
feel like we could do a whole 2 hours just around that. Like
100%.
Like wow,
100%.
Wow.
The other one is At the Altar of Sexual Idolatry by Stephen Gallagher.
The Altar
of Sexual
Idolatry.
And he's addressing porn for men and that type of issue. But he goes into why men struggle with this and our need to rely on God to get out of it. It's where I developed a devotional life right after that, like where I'd start praying and reading every day. But it really helped me to understand, the things I was exposed to as a teenager, like how that had come to be and the importance of changing that. And the reason I say that book is because if you're going into ministry, business, politics, you're going to reach some level of success. Sexual sins and issues will destroy your marriage. Like half of the marriages that we deal with have some type of porn or adultery or something related to them. And so, again, you are the horse that this business is riding on. And so that is a main area that I've seen time and time again that will just wreak havoc in people's lives. And so if you can deal with that and address that, like you're going to remove one of the big barriers to long-term success in multiple areas of your life. Highly recommend the book.
Wow. Man, that is so good. Thank you for sharing that, man. That's some deep, deep stuff. You're so right, man. I think if you have any success, people that really, start to do really well, and they start to it's easy to get prideful if you have a lot of success, right? You start to rely on your success more than I'm Christian, so Jesus, I believe that has to be your core foundation. But you get away from that and start believing in your money or success, and then inevitably, it's very easy to have sexual temptation and go down that path. It ends up destroying you.
Yes.
Right? So you got to be really sound on your base foundation and really be moral and have that clear path. If you go throughout history, the most powerful men in history that were the most successful, a lot of them were brought down by their lack of discipline on their own sexual desires.
Yeah.
Not to give, King David, because we'll start there, right? If you remember,
of course.
Just throughout history and even modern history, there's so many stories. Our own president right now, or ex-president's in court for his own stuff right now, not having discipline in that area, right?
Yeah.
It's so crazy. So, Aaron, if there's a young man out there today and he's like, man, I'm inspired, I'm going to read these books, I'm going to take action, I'm going to have wisdom, what's one good, solid piece of advice you can give somebody if they want to go start their own thing today and jump out there? What would you tell them? This is your good friend that you just met. He came to you and said, Aaron, I want to start a business. What would you recommend?
I would recommend that he not do what you just said, which is read the business, make the plan, read the books, make the plan, think about all that. No, just do business. Like, only thing you need to do in business is get something that people are willing to pay for to as many people and as quickly as possible. That is the essence of business. And so if you sit around reading about business, that's not doing business. If you sit around planning your business, that's not business. You can talk to you're blue in the face about business. But when you go out and you start selling a product or selling a service, that's doing business. And your quickest path to success and to really being able to start reading the books and growing and thinking plans is the path to revenue. So how can I do business? Like, answer that one question and go do it. Do it today. Go make a sale today. Don't have to be perfect. The product don't have to be perfect. Just go do business.
That may be some of the best advice I've heard on here yet, Aaron. That is so good. I'm going to preference it. I highly agree with him. I recommend it. Just be buckled in, because what he just told you, although it sounded simple, is going to be very, very difficult and hard, but do it anyway. Man, Aaron, this has been so great, man. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on here today. I love what you just said about, that advice. But if you had to do all over again and you were going to start a business, would you go into the same business you in today, or is there a different industry or something else that, man, really pulls on your heart and says, man, or maybe just have thought, maybe, I'd really like to be in this type of business, or an opportunity that you've seen right now, that you just see in this current environment, that you, man, you know what, if I was in the right situation and things were right, I would really love to get involved in this type of business right now, because I just see the opportunities?
Absolutely not. If I felt that way fundamentally, I would do it. Because the mistake I
So
made...
you would, on a dime, you would turn and change course and go into that if that was the case?
Yes.
100%.
100%. Because...
Man, I got to get in this jiu-jitsu.
The thing then is, like I said earlier, the mistake was I taught for too long. I knew the whole time I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm in a business and I'm like, no, I don't want to do this business, I'm just dragging out the inevitable.
Wow.
Because, the other side to that, though, is I'm not going to chase every shiny object. I don't have to be successful in everything. I only have to be successful in one thing. That's what I tell you. Oh, you got to do Bitcoin. I don't do Bitcoin. I buy stocks. Okay? Why you don't do Bitcoin? I don't need to be successful in Bitcoin. There's so many market opportunities. AI is coming out. I mean, you can get into coding. There's all kind of different YouTube channels. I'd love to have a jiu-jitsu YouTube channel, a business YouTube channel, a Spanish YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. And that is my problem as an entrepreneur is
I want to do all those things.
I want to do everything, right? And so, no, I can't chase every shiny object. You have to love what you do because it's going to be harder than you think. It's going to cost more money. It's going to take way longer than you think. So you jump from this to that.
It's just one of my core sayings I always say is do what you want to do, but just know it's going to be harder than you think. It's going to take longer than you think. And it's going to cost a lot more money than you think. So however long you think it's going to take, double it. However hard you think you're going to work, double it. However much you think it's going to cost, triple it.
That's so true.
It's so true,
man. And that's the most discouraging thing in entrepreneurship is that everyone on social is telling you the complete opposite.
They're lying.
Just start your YouTube channel. You'll be successful by Friday. Open up a pest control company. You'll be done by the 30th. You're going to take those shawnies out, right?
Yeah.
20 years of business, you're going to take them out in a weekend? Come on.
Yeah.
But and people start entrepreneurship believing that.
Well, it's a social media life, the instant gratification.
Yep.
Everybody just thinks it's easy. Everybody's looking for the easy thing. But really what we need to change our whole mindset around is I like to say you need to embrace the suck and train your mind to look for the hard thing and get to enjoy doing the hard thing and want to do it, and you'll have more success. And don't even look for instant success. Anything that I've ever gotten into, I've gone into it with a mindset of burn the boats. So I've believed in it, been passionate enough about it to know that I'm committed to it for life.
Yes.
Hopefully I don't take my life, but if it takes 1 year, great. But if it takes till I'm dead in my grave, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to push. I'm going to persist. I'm going to have success. I want it as soon as possible, but I won't stop until I have it.
Yeah.
And if I'm not successful for 50 years, well, maybe I start asking some questions and I pivot and I change, but I'm still going to pursue and push through.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
You gotta have
Aaron, Ben, thank you so much. This has been so good. Guys, if you got any value from this, please like, subscribe. Absolutely go check out Aaron Daigle on his YouTube channel. Guys, we love you. You be blessed. Subscribe, Main Street Mogul.